All right, well, we're here for another episode of UEM PDTV, and we've got some extra people here with us to talk about the UCET conference that we just had. We're happy to have Jamie Gardner, Danny Sloan, and Katie Blunt here with us. So let's talk about UCET, and why don't we just kind of get into like what was different about this conference than the past conferences?
Well, this conference was a lot different because it was 100% online. And I think that presented a lot of challenges for the UCET board that put this conference together. But I mean, my experience, it was amazing. Like, it was really cool and it was totally different. But I thought it was really neat. Like, it was a very accessible conference.
So when you're saying it was totally different because it was online, like what are some of the things that were different?
Absolutely. So I think on the positive side, if you were in a session and it just wasn't fitting your needs, you could just pop into another session really easily and not have to worry about like that awkward feeling when you're leaving the presenter, like, sorry, this just isn't what I needed. So I think that was one thing that was really nice.
Yeah, I always felt like in the past, like if I was in the wrong session and realized it, like I always felt like I needed to give like a reason on my way out the door. So this was really nice just to be able to hop out of a session and hop into a new one.
Well, I agree. There were some definite pros and cons. I did hear people and see people post, oh, we miss seeing everybody face to face. But on the other hand, we had people joining the UCET conference that would not have been able to otherwise. So people from all corners of the state were able to come even if they weren't able to travel. In fact, we also had people joining from across the country who would definitely not usually travel to Utah for UCET, and yet here they were participating. We even had really great speakers like Rushton Hurley join in because he didn't have to travel and he only needed to dedicate the time for his particular sessions. So there's some really cool things that can happen with a virtual conference.
Yeah, and let's talk about speakers for a minute because we had something at this UCET conference that we haven't had before. We had a much younger keynote speakers, and they also, were not physically at the conference. They were from their own homes in different parts of the United States. But let's talk about these keynotes. What did you think?
Oh my gosh, I may be obsessed with Liv Bits. I went and checked out her site. I had never heard of her before, and I thought she was amazing. And like such a good example for teachers when they're asking like, why should I get my students using, YouTube or social media or some of these things? You can actually see some of the great things that she's doing, how she's using her, popularity for good. And I loved that she wasn't even at her house. She was in a hotel because she had a dance competition later in the day in a different city. Like, how amazing is that?
I also agree that having younger speakers was awesome because it shows us what the possibilities are for our own students, that they are way more capable than we sometimes give them credit for, and that they can handle challenges a lot larger than sometimes what we're throwing at them. And with technology these days at home, they're doing a lot more on their own. They're learning how to edit videos. They're learning how to use different apps. And so bringing that in your classroom, it might be more of a challenge for you as the teacher than it is for them. They're just really good at this stuff.
Yeah, did anybody else feel a little mind blown when our second keynote started speaking? Not only can they do this type of thing, they're way smarter than I am.
Way smarter.
And that's okay.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think that's a good thing to bring up as well, Katie, that you don't have to be the expert when it comes to trying new things in your classroom. If you throw it out there to them and you tell them, hey, we're going to try this, they'll figure it out. They really do. And they become the teacher and they can help you with all of the tech issues in your classroom. They're really capable.
Absolutely. It's more like instead of just being the instructor that tells every step of the way, just be the facilitator of opportunities. For some of these kiddos, we just need to say yes and move out of the way.
Right. And that was one thing that was very apparent with both of them is, they were pretty comfortable with the setting and being in front of people. And, it just goes to show you give kids opportunities like that and they're going to get better and better at it and then just be naturals like both of them were. So let's talk about the sessions now. How were the sessions a little bit different than we've had in the past?
Well, they were all online. And I think we've all become pretty accustomed to teaching and learning on Zoom or in another online platform. But I was able to participate in, I did a over-the-shoulder session, so it was like a short 20-minute session, and then a traditional session, and also a panel discussion, which was kind of just like watching someone's Zoom meeting and not, having your face up there either. But it was really great. Everything went really smoothly, and the bonus is we have all these nice recordings from the different types of sessions that we were in. Jamie tried something really innovative. She did a breakout session. Jamie, do you want to talk about how you were able to get teachers collaborating together in this online space?
Yeah, this was a perfect way to show teachers how to do a digital breakout. So if you don't know what a breakout is, it's like an escape room in your classroom. And they have physical ones that you can do with boxes, but they also have digital breakouts where you're interacting with your device, but also with your team. So I was able to bring all of the participants in my session into a Zoom room where then I could split them out into smaller groups of 3 or 4 people so that they could work together on solving a breakout. So without the technology that we had available, I wouldn't have been able to do it as easily in person. Everyone on their devices, they were comfortable with them. They all had internet access, which is sometimes hard at a conference. Your Wi-Fi doesn't always work, and then someone's left out or you're not able to participate. But because we were all at home in our own locations, we could collaborate from wherever we were and learn a lot more about digital breakouts. And it was super fun. It was great. And everyone, they were such good sports when we had to go from hop-in into Zoom. They just jumped right in. And we've just become so much better at technology. And I feel like we saw that this year at UCET.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we're a lot more comfortable with is being, in a virtual conference or in a virtual meeting. And so having them go from one to another, like in the past, that might have been like a deal breaker, but they're just like, oh, I just got to put in this other link and go here. And then I'll be in this other virtual meeting. So
yeah, Jamie's like the ultimate app smasher, and like, talk about teacher agility. She had this plan and was like, I have to use Hop-In. What am I going to do? I just think that's amazing that she just was like, well, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go here and we're going to give them another link. But I agree with the point you made, Jared, that here we are in this not quite post-COVID, but getting closer point in our careers. And we've had to learn this technology. And now, thankfully, we're starting to reap even more benefits than maybe we expected at first from having to jump in and learn how to use all of this tech.
Yeah, and one more thing I would add, Jamie, on your breakout is this also is a good example of the SAMR framework where we're leveraging the technology to improve the learning experience for everybody. And you're doing things that you couldn't have done in person with the technology that you have.
I think that's a great point. And one that honestly, I didn't even think about that when we were doing it. But I think that we have all of our late adopters to technology because of the pandemic. They were forced into it, and now they found things that really work for them. And they're not as hesitant as they once were. They're willing to jump in and click the links and try the different things. And if it doesn't work, then they don't have that panic that they used to. We used to feel like, I think as tech trainers, if this doesn't work, I'm going to lose everybody. And now they're willing to just go along with it, and they recognize the benefits of it. And I think your example with the SAMR model is perfect. We're seeing a lot more teachers who are able to extend their teaching because of technology.
It's kind of like jumping into an ice cold swimming pool. Like, it sounds like a terrible idea. Like, you don't want to do it. And then we were all kind of forced to jump into the ice cold swimming pool. And after a little while, it was okay. Like, we adjusted, we built our resiliency. We may not have chosen to do it that way in the first place, but now that we're here, like, let's enjoy the fruits of jumping into the pool.
Now that we're here, we're all numb, Danny.
Yeah,
no, that's not the point
actually,
you were
yeah.
making.
So one other thing that was going on during the conference that Katie, you were over, was the Goose Chase. Why don't you tell us about that and how that worked?
Sure. You know, Goose Chase is something that we actually have used at in-person UCET conferences in the past. And essentially what Goose Chase is a digital scavenger hunt. So we put in challenges for people to do certain things, record, take photos, and in the past, even go to specific locations that were geotagged. And it's all in the name of like interacting with other conference attendees, getting people to be sure to attend different types of sessions, as Danny was talking about, and give, you know, vendors a visit and talk with them. And so actually, it was not that big of a change to go virtual with Goose Chase. All that we had to do was take out the ones that required a specific location. You know, the theme of UCET this year was refresh, and so we also shifted a lot to focus on what are some of the things that you've been doing to refresh throughout quarantine and now that we're coming out of it. So it ended up being a lot of fun. For me, it was one of the only ways that I actually saw other people at the conference, because in Hopin, it's not like Zoom. You don't see every single person's face, but I could see their faces and what they were experiencing during the conference by watching that Goose Chase feed and all the photos coming through. So I really liked that about it.
Well, and Goose Chase is fun. I think there's a free version that teachers can use, but there's also just things that you can learn from those kind of activities. Like maybe part of your assignment is, you know, complete this assignment and then take a picture of you doing something outside to kind of help our students get that balance that they might need on virtual learning days.
Yeah, and that's a great point you bring up, Danny, is there may have been people that didn't participate in Goose Chase because they just didn't know what it was, but next year, you know, make sure to try it out. If for no other reason, then you might get some ideas that you can use with in your own class.
And prizes.
And prizes. I was going to say, and prizes. Well, and the nice thing about Goose Chase too is, you know, when we've done some other of these challenges, it basically at a certain point in the conference, if you're not in the top 5, you're like, I'm out, because there's no way you're ever going to catch up to these people. But with Goose Chase, we can, you know, cherry pick whichever challenges we want to look at. And it really has nothing to do with how many points you have and how long you've been participating. We definitely gave some prizes for the top, you know, points as well. But it was fun to just say, hey, even if you join a couple of these little challenges, you know, join in, have some fun, get to know people. And so it was a lot of fun.
So certainly an opportunity for everyone out there to, you know, have a little more fun at the conference by participating in something like that. Hopefully next year, things will look a lot more normal for us at UCET. But what are some things that you think that we ought to continue from this virtual conference that we just had?
Yeah, I personally would love to see UCET still have an online virtual portion so that people from across the state can join in. They don't have to spend 2 whole days here. Maybe they just pay for a day and do it virtually. Maybe they're able to jump into a few sessions that they're interested in. But I just feel like it opened it up to a lot of people who might not have traveled to Salt Lake to be a part of it. So I hope they do something virtually next year.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the things that we've learned during, you know, quarantine and the pandemic will really help to have even our in-person events more accessible for people who can't make it, whether it's, you know, just distance away from the conference, they can't make it there, or maybe they just don't want to, they have kids at home, whatever it is, like we can make it easier for everyone to attend these kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that we've learned about hybrid models, but also blended teaching and learning. We've even considered, well, is there something that you could do where, you go and you access things virtually, but then you come together and you discuss them? How can we use all that we've learned about what's good in person and what's good online and really merge those together?
Great points. I think there's lots of opportunity for more inclusivity and accessibility in the future, and everybody's so much better at this. And I think the key thing there is they feel more confident and comfortable. And that's really the difference, that we kind of talked about with the examples that we shared is, I think in the past, a lot of people thought they were going to break Zoom if they, hit the wrong button on it, and they'd screw it up for everybody. And they've just realized, oh, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to break anything with this stuff. So really appreciate everybody hopping on here for this wrap up of UCET, and lots of great ideas for the future. And we hope to see everybody at the next UCET conference next year. So thanks for joining in today.